Good morning, folks. It's not a great morning for me. I got up a little late. It's almost 5 o'clock. I got my supplements, medications laid out. Getting ready for the day. The dog has been out. She's wet outside, so she's in her kennel, drying off, hopefully shaking the dirt off in there rather than the motorhome. Why am I not sleeping well? Well, I had coffee yesterday. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Had it in the morning. Okay, that's one possibility. It could be the fact that I discovered another motorhome that was really nice that I'd like to get. It looks like it's possible. And it's a bit of a stretch, but it looks like I got two of them to look at right now. And then I found out yesterday that Bank of America has got some weird shit going on. And I know a lot of you think that it doesn't affect you, but it affects me. The governor of the state that I last retired in he was organized crime. His family was organized crime. It was so organized crime he had to change his last name. And what organized crime is known for is messing with and stealing retirements. Retirement funds. They like to get their fingers into that stuff. Well, he decided to give our retirement from the bank it was in, which was all right, nothing wrong with it, to Bank of America. So if that bank goes down, yeah, I got an interest in it. I lose my retirement. Insiders at Bank of America, the CEO and some other people have been selling off their stock like crazy. Apparently, this just leaked out, and they've been selling off so much stock that they dropped the price from $34, $35 down to $31. Now, when you and I talk about it, it sounds like, oh, that's not much money. What are we worried about that for? You got to think of economies of scale here. A drop from $35 down to $31 is a drop of what I figured out last night is a drop of a good 12%. It's a drop of 12% in less than a week. And I also know that my uncle probably lost real big on that. And that's also on my mind. So here I am trying to swap into a motorhome, which is going to be a major purchase and require a ton of my assets, which I'm willing to give up. I've actually got two of them to consider. And it's tough choices between them as well. Anyhow, my uncle's been kidnapped and they won't let me talk to him. Yeah, they've used the laws in the nursing home system and all that shit. They've got him pretty well sequestered. When I call his phone, it rolls over to voicemail automatically. So I'm pretty sure they've got it programmed up to reject my phone calls in particular. And he and I haven't talked in more than 3 weeks, and usually we talk once a week. But his captors, with whom he identifies, you've heard of Stockholm Syndrome? Yeah, well, the victim identifies with their captors and carries the torch for the captors better than the captors can carry it. You got to remember the Patty Hearst case a long time ago. You'd have to be my age to remember that, but basically, she was the heiress to the Hearst fortune, and they kidnapped her and kept her for a year, and everybody's worried about her. What happened to Patty Hearst out of California? And I'll be darned. Next thing we know, she shows up in public, or there's a bank robbery, and there's a woman wearing a doggone beret, holding a rifle, not a pistol, but a rifle, in the lobby of the bank, protecting her buddies that are robbing it. Her kidnappers were robbing the damn bank. And here's Patty Hearst. Oh, Oh, they had her brainwashed pretty good. She was going by the name Tanya. They called her Tanya. And so she was helping her captors. That's the famous case for Stockholm Syndrome. You identify with your captors and you help them. And unfortunately, I understand what you might call well, you might call it the family demons. I think you might also call it intergenerational trauma. And I understand how my uncle was set up for this shit since childhood. And I understand how his first marriage didn't help him any. In his second marriage, well, this woman sized him up for his wealth and went after it. And now her kids are all over it. It's a pretty shitty deal. I can't talk to my uncle. He has medical requirements. I'm not allowed to participate in those. I'm his nearest blood relative. I've got some wits about me. I've got some good sense about me. I understand the medical monopoly and the pitfalls of it and how screwed up they are. Yeah, I understand that stuff. And their heart's not in a good place. I don't give a damn what you say. At this point, you should know it by now. If you don't know it by now, then you've been living under a rock for more than 3 years. And he's got some problems. He's going to be 98 next month. He lost his wife recently, his second wife. So he's dealing with that. And the kids forced him and his wife into the nursing home prematurely to sequester them off. And they have been depriving me, including that deceased wife of his, depriving me of access to my uncle for quite a while. Why? So they could work their bullshit on him. They whittled that man down. They marginalized him. And then they have exploited him. But right now I can't talk to him and tell him, hey, Uncle Roy, the insiders at Bank of America are selling off their stock. It went down $4 a share. I'm sure he's aware of it. He's one of the original stockholders before it was called B of A. So I sent an irritating text message to his keeper, the ringleader of it all. And I said, since you've kidnapped my Uncle Roy and won't let me talk with him, she's interfering with that, you get to tell him the message. It wasn't a very cryptic message. Insiders of B of A, CEO and somebody else, been selling off the stock. Not buying any stock. Not a good sign. Bad juju, bad omen. And they dropped the price quite a bit. They didn't tell her that. He doesn't need to hear that. And then I just put in there in the second message, I said something about losses. Appears to be a loss. 1.8 million, question mark? That's the least he's lost. No, I don't know all of his stuff. I know enough of it to know that he's probably lost $2 million in just a few days. I mean, what's $1 million here? What's $1 million there? You know, when you've got that much to kick around, it doesn't matter. Except you hold on to it when you probably should be selling it. And I don't know if he's in good shape. I mean, he's played this stock market as long as I've been alive. And yes, I know what he's got in there. I did the math. It wasn't very hard for me. I could be off by quite a bit. He could be worth a lot more than what I'm guessing. That's for sure. That's okay. I don't mind. But I want to be able to talk with my uncle. I want to be able to be part of his medical care and treatment. For Christ's sakes, I've got an earned doctorate. You know, it's not like I'm a dumbass. I understand alternative health, which is really the real health. It's much better than the system of poisons that these quacks give us, these big pharma prostitutes, these whores that work for the drug companies. You know, the medical degree has only got a little bit over 100 years of tradition. However, my degree, Doctor of Philosophy and Psychology, has got more than 4 centuries. More than 4 centuries of tradition. It's actually a better degree, a higher degree, but you people walk around acting like the medical doctors are the real doctors. You don't realize this system was set up to shorten your lives, folks. Anyway. So that's bothering me more than anything else. He's all I got left. My brother, in the middle of all this shit, has disowned me. He sent me a cryptic message that basically told me, he threatened my life. And I wrote my uncle a letter. And I asked him, was he behind that? Or was Lois behind that? It was Lois that was behind that. Yes, Lois is taking shots at me. She'd like to set my ass up on some false charges. She'd like to get rid of me. They've got more money than, I don't have more money than God, but believe me, they got enough money that they could accident me. That's for sure. So I make this video public. I put it up there. Kind of hope my uncle doesn't see it because I don't want him panicking. But he's definitely not in charge. Yet they still got him running that damn stock market, and the collapse is imminent. You got 2 months. Now, some are saying it's going to go slow. Well, I think it's going to go, and it's going to be probably going slow, but it could all of a sudden take off. So we're all in a world of hurt here in the United States of America. Why? Because there's no real money. It's all a bunch of debt notes. It's all based on credit and debt. And it will collapse like a house of cards, which it should do in order to free Americans and free the rest of the world. Those son of a bitches got to go down. The problem is the disorder that's going to ensue is going to take a lot of us out with them. However, there is a possibility that we could pull through this tough period. If you split society up into 3 bands, 3 levels, the people at the bottom have stopped buying stuff. They don't know what's next. And everything's gone up in price. So it's coming to a halt. If you go to the next level, they're doing pretty good, but they're diminishing as well because the cost of living is so high. So that would be your middle class. That's what they're targeting. That's what they want to get rid of. They actually want to kill them. They want to reduce the numbers tremendously. Tremendously. They put it in stone on the Georgia Guidestones. Man, they were really enthusiastic on that. They wanted to wipe out 6.5 billion people and bring us down to 500 million. Only 500 million to keep us in balance with nature. You go to the old Deagle website, which may be up and may not, and they change the numbers on it. They take the numbers way down. In America, at 335 million, they took us down initially to 69 million. They took the website down for about 5 years. Then they put it up and they say, oh, it's only going to be 99 million. It's not going to be 69 million. Yeah, big deal. So I'm supposed to be happy that, more than 1 out of every 3 of us will be croaked. Yeah, that's what they're doing to us. That's their target. You want another reference? Go to the Bible. It says 1/3 would die from the pestilence. Pestilence is a broad term. It doesn't talk about bacteria or viruses. Pestilences includes other things. Toxins. That's the first wave. They didn't make their third the first wave. They only got about 1 billion out of 7 billion on the planet. Maybe. Who the hell knows? You can't get any real stats. You can't talk about it. You can't communicate about it. And of course, the Bible says there's going to be a second wave and another third will be taken out. So depending on how you read that, that means if it's a third more of the full third, then that's 2/3 gone. But if it's a third of the 2/3 that were left, then that means 48% will be gone. They're working on it. The problem is the evil ones expected more of us to die off this last time than they got, so they're upset because they didn't make production. They didn't make numbers for their master, Lucifer. And you people think the devil's not real. What's that? The devil wears Prada or something? Isn't that those high-heeled shoes? The devil wears leather. Devil wears red leather shoes. What do they make those out of again? What club is that? Who belongs to that club? Who wears red shoes? People in high places. Yeah, I'm stressing. I'm aging. I don't like it much. I tried to start running. Low back's bothering me. Been doing some exercise. It's really been good. Not able to stick around long enough to really work on things a little bit better with this trainer. And then of all things, my theology is changing. And it's out of the mainstream of churchianity by a long shot. Here I am. I didn't understand what a preterist was. They believe that all of prophecy's been fulfilled. It's all past. Which is hogwash, by the way. I mean, it's not all past. But where they are advanced and ahead of the rest of everybody else is that they actually figured out how to live for the Holy Spirit, how to let the Holy Spirit live in them, how to actually be the temple, how to actually fulfill that new covenant. Yeah, they're the only ones doing it. But my God, you bring up their ideas to somebody else. You told me you're a preterist. Well, I hadn't really thought about that. But their philosophy is quite a bit different. I think they read the Bible a lot more accurately. However, I can see everybody's perspective at this point. You see, the purpose of getting a doctor of philosophy and psychology, what it says is not that you know everything. Heck no. Because when you learn more, you realize how much more you don't understand. You realize the limits of your knowledge, the more knowledgeable you get. And you get humbled by it. Because believe me, there's so much to be learned. There's so much out there. What a doctor of philosophy means that you understand the philosophies undergirding your discipline. So you got a handle on it. So if you want to get into it, you can. Supposedly. What America is suffering from is intergenerational trauma right now. And what's happening is that the devils have been running the show to increase it and ratchet it up like crazy. I hear about all kinds of violence in the workplace today. People can't get along. We're just at the beginning of this. Yes, it's a purposeful takedown of civilization by the evil one and their children on behalf of the keepers of this planet. It seems to coincide with the end of Earth ages. They get us one way or they get us the other way. So you got to worry about that too, because the magnetic field is dropping and we don't understand our sun very well. We don't understand our Earth very well. We don't understand our solar system very well. Never a straight answer. Never a straight answer. NASA. Reminds me of Nazca. I think that's one of the evil ones, like the old feathered serpent or something like that. The Bible's filled with so much depth and so much wisdom, I don't dare talk about it. You won't understand it. Yes, I look outside of it to get some help for sure. I look particularly to the old paintings, the old statues, the old artwork in the caves. All of that stuff informs us Oh my God, the stuff that was up in Oregon, carved around the mountains. It was almost ruins, but it was different. You've got the Decalogue stone. It's in outside of Albuquerque, about 30 miles west southwest. They say it's a fraud, but it's got most of the Ten Commandments on it, and I think it basically is a boundary marker saying this is the law of the land. There's one at the north end too in Minnesota. I understand it's got a little bit more Scandinavian stuff to do with their roots and their religion. And then we've got the oldest temple was found underground in New Hampshire. Really old. And it was Druid stuff. And then this continent was the home of the giants for the most part. They got whacked really hard in the last Earth Age. And their skeletons are all over the place, but the Smithsonian, when they get the skeletons, I thought they were destroying them. Well, it turns out, I guess they're holding them in the basement. They don't want to admit they have them, and you have to ask special permission. You have to ask for it specifically in order to get a tour of the giant skeletons. They don't want you to know the Bible is true and real. They don't want you to know that the giants that are in the Bible really were here pretty recently. And they also don't want you to know that the people that run the planet are descended from them, related to them at the least. One day, I counted the number of species of human being on the planet. I think I stopped at 11 or 13. Alive today. We're different species, folks. We're not different races. A lot of us come from different planets, by the way. I don't quite understand what the big boys got in mind, what the gods have in mind. Don't know how we all got here and how we all got put here. No. That's a question I'd like to know the answer to. But if the most watched video of all my videos is the original 13th Amendment, I'm really proud of you folks that tune into the 13th Amendment because it lets me know you want to know what happened. It lets me know you realize something is wrong. And by the way, that 13th Amendment, the original one, is how you get your republic back. It doesn't happen any other way. I've been putting that stuff on Facebook, leading from behind on that for years. Man, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, somebody started posting my own stuff up there, my own wall. And I was like, I looked at it and I read it and I said, man, that looks familiar. That's too familiar. I finally asked the guy, where did he get it? He couldn't remember. You know what I told him? You got it from me. But don't worry about it. Steal it and go. Steal it and run. Run with it. Get that word out about the strategic intervention, the original 13th Amendment, which is the proper law of the land. It gets rid of the British accreditation regency that rules over this country through the legal system, which is corrupt as hell, unconstitutional. Our founders never would have allowed any corporations. That was a mistake. It wasn't an honest mistake. Honest Abe was not honest. They did not call him honest for no reason. He was dishonest as hell. He was a 3-in-1 man. He was highly conflicted. He was 3 races in one. That's right. And Abraham Lincoln wanted to ship the blacks back to Africa, stating that the races are not compatible. I wonder how he knew. By the way, that night he went to the theater. And as far as I can tell, his wife blew his brains out and framed up John Wilkes Booth, her opium supplier. That appears to be what really happened to Abe Lincoln, because for 2 years after the death, the murder, the assassination, Congress refused to give his widow her widow's pension. For 2 years, they refused to give her the pension because she knew she had pulled the trigger. They knew she had pulled the trigger. They also knew the country wouldn't have been able to withstand knowing that bad news. Folks, I'd appreciate some prayer for this channel. I realize that I'm letting you down. I really should just be opening up the Bible and reading from it. I am enjoying this book that's explaining some of the variances between these versions of the Bible. And I'm not too happy that things got interpreted the way they did and got mishandled. But you need to understand something. The evil ones have been there the whole time. The evil scribes were throwing in grenades for us to stumble upon. They were changing things the entire time. They've been censoring the literature, according to Eustace Mullins, to hide their presence for at least 3,000 years. One thing the praetorist says to me, if there's anything that needs to be fulfilled, it's Mystery Babylon. We have to get rid of those people once and for all. Okay, fine. Look, I can point to the Old Testament and I can tell you, what about the scriptures on Damascus? Or Damesh, as they say over there in the Middle East. In Syria, Damesh. The prophecy in Damascus says it will be reduced to ruins and never will be inhabited. Shit, I think it's one of the most oldest continuously inhabited cities on the planet. So much for that scripture coming true. We may live to see that happen. I think I'm going to live to see that happen. And you people who don't believe in Satan, it says in the Bible where his seat is. Pergamum, well, Palmyra, Pergamus, I got to go look it up. It's in there. It's in Revelations, and it's mentioned twice there in Revelations, and it's one other place, I think, in the New Testament. And those arches, the golden arches of the devil, if you will, they got destroyed over there, but they rebuilt it. I thought it was just a 2/3 scale or 3/4 scale. Oh, no, hell no. They built it full size. It tours the country. They're putting forth their gods, Baal and Molech. They love to sacrifice humans. They love the worship that they did years ago. I think what blows my mind was realizing that the Jewish faith as is practiced today was not really formulated until the 1700s. 80. So you people run around talking about the Judeo-Christian heritage. There is none. And they weren't called Jews back then. Moses was not a Jew. Moses was an Israelite. His religion was the faith of our fathers. It was Israelite. They worshipped Israel. They worshipped Yahweh. They worshipped Israel, he who rules with God, he who has power with God. No, folks, I don't get it all right, and I'm just doing this from the seat of my pants, and hopefully I get a little sharper and better with some time. I am better than I was in 2006 when I stroked twice. It was horrible. The recovery was very difficult. And no, I've never made a full recovery. It's just the way it is. Yahweh set this up in advance. He humbled me. He pulled the rug out from underneath me. Man, did he humble me? Did he bring me down? And then he built me up. He built me up the same way he's going to build you up. By reading the scriptures. I sat on my ass for hours a day reading. And after 18 months, my short-term working memory was starting to work again. So yes, this mind that you're hearing, this person that you're hearing, was built almost from the ground up by the Word. The Word is more important than what you think. And it's not holding on to it rigidly. No, not at all. It's continuously meditating on it. It's continuously reading it, rereading it. You want your nation back? As Barack Obama said, those people in middle America, in the heartland, in flyover country, which is still good, by the way. It's the only good part left. They cling to their guns and to their Bibles. Well, folks, you aren't doing a real good job on clinging to your guns. And as far as the Bible goes, you don't even know what it is. You got to realize that the founders of this nation knew the Bible inside and out. You don't have that advantage. You don't have that foundation. You don't have that understanding. And because of it, you're perishing. That's why the country's in trouble. It's not because a bunch of bad guys are running the show behind the scenes, which they are. They're just doing their job. They're just living according to the nature for which they were created. And what were they created for? To sift you and me. To test us. To throw us off course if they get away with it. And they have gotten away with it. You want your country back? Read your Bibles. You get the Holy Ghost going in you by reading the Bible. I know, the day of Pentecost, it was instant, and they had tongues of fire and all that above their heads or whatever on their mouths, and talking all kinds of other languages and gibberish. Okay, they were actually talking real languages, and it was just mesmerizing everybody, because everybody was visiting from afar, and other people who didn't know their languages all of a sudden were praising Yahweh in their native tongues, and they could hear it and understand it and go, what the heck is going on? These people know my language? Yeah. It was like the blast on the road to Damascus that Saul got and became Paul. But you got to remember, Paul didn't just go around walking from that after Ananias got his eyesight going and, preaching to everybody. No. He holed up for 2 decades, 20 years, while he read the scriptures that were available to them back then, which would have been the Greek ones, the Septuagint. It was only after educating himself, after infusing himself with the Word, that he was able to take a stand. Boy, did he take a stand. He got it all right. And they screwed up and misinterpreted his stuff as best they could. For one, it was a little bit more mystical than they were ready to handle. For the other, they knew it was just flat out dangerous because they knew it would take them all down. But the problem is we dropped the ball a couple thousand years ago. So if you want to join Yahweh's army, if you want to join and become a member of our Lord's host, do it. I don't care what version of the Bible you read. I like mine best. But every version of the Bible will lend something to the Word. Some will obscure things and hide things, but you got to work it out. You got to read it. You got to study the Scriptures daily. Do I do it daily? Honestly, I get close. I do my best when I'm doing that. I went to the Scriptures last night because I was so rattled by what was going on. I got 2 possible motorhomes. I got to sort that out. I'm going to get to look at them both if I want to. I've got a family that's in dire distress. I have an uncle that's been kidnapped so they can take the family resources. And by the way, I have a vested interest in that. Yeah. My grandfather left me the camp down at Adams Point. My uncle sold it because he and, my Aunt Alice were tired of the college students burning it practically every summer. It was disheartening. And the 2 of them loved that place because I think that's where they did their honeymooning, and that was their love nest. It had nice spring water there. I'd go down with my grandfather and help him get water out of the spring. And my uncle called me up and told me they didn't want it anymore. It was mine, but I had to pay the taxes on it. Taxes at the time were $3,000 a year. Hell, I was making $16,000 a year, struggling as a starving musician, and I was ill at the time, severely ill, and didn't realize it for a long time. My diet was that impoverished, and the evil ones got to me through their crap, which is what they've done to a lot of you as well. They're famous for doing that. And so my uncle told me, well, then he wanted to sell the property, put it into his house. New house in Rollingsford, I think it was. It was a beautiful house. And he would take care of me later. Unfortunately, he seems to have forgotten me. And of course, that was the house before this one. And all of that stuff is accrued in value. Hell, he doesn't even remember what he sold the camp for. It was either 14, 15, or 19 acres, depending upon the tide you measured it in. Yeah, waterfront property on the flats of the Great Bay. We sold the Adams family what was known today as Adams Point. That was part of the Kent homestead. The Kents were given a land grant by the King of England in 1649 for the service we provided the kings over the years. Since about 1066, we had one of the biggest armies in England. We had one of the biggest counties in England. We were such a tremendous presence that people referred to Kentish soldiers. We had our own army. That's what we had in this country back when we had self-rule. We had our militias. They took those away from us. I suggest you form the militias because you're going to have to defend yourselves. You're going to say, "Oh no, I'm just a Christian. I'll turn the other cheek. They can strike the other cheek. That's okay. I don't mind. I'll take it. I'm waiting for Jesus to return. He'll take care of everything. I don't have to lift a finger to defend myself. It's my trials, my tribulations. Oh, I have to go through this." Folks, you've been set up. You've been set up and knocked down. You got to understand. There are three great controllers in the world. One of them is religion. Another is government. And the other one is education. I think I've gone on long enough. I've aired the family laundry a little too well. And my brother has disowned me in all this matter. My brother has taken several of their vaccinations, and he actually had a pulmonary embolism. Streetwise, that's called a blood clot in the lung. And it damn near killed him. He was hospitalized. A lot of stuff creeped up on him at the same time. That was a couple of years ago. So he's been damaged. 1 out of every 32 has got myocardial damage, heart damage from the finest medical care available. And the number of people with neurological damage is tremendous. I have some. I'm aware of it. Most of you have a lot of it and you don't know it. Most of you aren't aware that your maladies were engineered in. Even the diabetes was engineered in and planned well in advance. And you say there's no devil. And nobody in their right mind would ever do such a thing, Dr. Kent. How can you declare that? How dare you claim that? How dare you judge? Folks, I'm going to call it at this point. I'm a little on the angry side. I kind of woke up. I got my own life to attend to. Thanks for letting me air my stuff out here a little bit with you. This stuff really bothers me. I might get some traction today on these issues. I hope so. I will get some answers either today, most definitely by tomorrow, that will inform me as to what path I am required to take. And if you want to pray for me, pray to Yahweh that He may keep me in His Spirit, that I may act in that I might put the ego, the personality of John Kent, to sleep, to die today to myself, to put my ego away, and to wait upon Him, to stay in the Word, and to when the Spirit moves me to take that action and not hesitate. You see, it's a lot more fun when you know the right thing to do. It's a lot more fun when your own ego isn't in there. It's a lot more fun when you're not trying to justify yourself, which basically means you get defensive, which basically means you're condemning yourself because you're trying to justify, rationalize what you're going to do. That's our plight. But when you turn to Yahshua and you actually figure out that you're going to live this stuff, that you are the temple, then that Spirit wells up in you. It shows you the right way. It provides you the proper answer so you know the right thing to do. It's up to you to either do it or ignore it and pay the price. And if you do it, it may not look good, but there's a blessing to it. You and I aren't in charge of this. Yahweh lays out our steps. We choose our general direction, but He puts the steps in there for us. And you may think it's all about matter of luck. It's the luck of the draw. I got news for you. This reality, this life you're living, is highly, highly organized. It only appears random. It's not random. If you run into somebody and they're not kind, avoid them like the plague. You have nothing to do with them. And I don't give a damn what country they come from, or what their religion is, or anything, or especially how much money they got. If they're not nice people, walk away, slip away, run away, get away from them. Don't have anything to do with them. You know, you'll know when somebody's nice. And if they actually live based upon equity, fairness, real, true fairness. I'm going to give you this, you're going to give me that, and it's a fair deal. I'm not taking advantage of you, you're not taking advantage of me. This is something that's very consensual. We've got a contract going here, and we're both winning. That's what I want for you today, folks. I want you winning. I want me winning. I even want the adversaries, the people that are plaguing me and bothering me, and have kidnapped my uncle and have taken his ass over and have got him all brainwashed and got him under the screws. I watched those people. I watched them interacting with him, and he would go along to get along. They put so much psychic pressure on him. The psychological burden was overwhelming on this old man. Going to be 98 in a month. And then they would walk off, and he would turn to me and change character completely, get slightly animated, become a little bit more alive, and tell me what was going on and what was on the up and up. And he cried to me 3 days in a row when I visited him that his ex-wife forced him to change his will, and he wanted to go see his attorney to change it back, to put me in it. I'm the last of the Kents. I'm the last one who has a hope in hell or heaven or whatever you want to call this place. I know a lot of you say this isn't heaven, this isn't the kingdom of heaven. Well, it is closer to hell than it is to heaven right at the moment, yeah. But I'm the only one that can carry on the family name. I would do that if I could. Of course, what matters to women is the wallet. If my dear uncle provides for me, that's exactly what I'm going to do my best to do. And I know I'm not even going to talk to my friends about it anymore, hardly, because they tell me I'm too old for it. How old? How old were the patriarchs when they got their blessings, when they got their sons? How old was Sarah when she got her son? They were older than I am. Now, how old was Joseph when he married Mary? Well, he was actually younger than I am. He was only about 65, maybe at the most 68. I'm 70. She was 13. You need to understand something. We are in the final parts of the game. We're playing for all the marbles. This is for keeps. The earth, all life on the earth hangs in the balance. It's not from global warming, although these guys, these yahoos, have seeded the atmosphere to the point where the volcanoes have now overwhelmed it. And that's what's going on. They've lost control of it. They're still spraying us. Why are they spraying us? Are we cockroaches to them? Yeah. I always like to ask people, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's just cutting the ice kind of a question. You never know what you're going to hear, what you're going to get. And sometimes it's good to just joke about that. So, what do I want to be when I grow up? I'd like to be wise. I'd like to be a lot more intelligent than I am right now. I don't want to be wicked intelligent. I want Yahweh's intelligence. I want that understanding. Folks, they are kicking our butts. We peaked on the Earth's population at 30%, approximately 30% of the Earth's population. Caucasoids. And that was in 1933. Now, through a series of their big efforts, their brainwashing, just have a baby, don't have two. We've screwed up. And they've conquered us. Yes, they have. That was psychological warfare played out physically. By diminishing our birth rate and diminishing our numbers and diminishing our strength, they're actually able to overwhelm us. If you think that's not what this is about, then go shop in your local market store and see how many shawls and long dresses you see. I got nothing against those people. They've been planted here by the Assyrians. Read the Bible. What did Assyria do? Assyria conquered Israel. Depending on how you read it, 3 or 4 major excursions that actually ended up going to Judah and taking the people into walled cities as well. And they hauled them all out to Assyria, between Assyria and the Medes as a buffer zone at the base of the Caucasus mountain range in 3 locations that are mentioned in the Bible. 5 times. A 5-time witness in the Bible. It's there for a reason. It means pay attention to this. There's only one other 5-fold witness in the Bible. Those are the important things, right? I mean, the weights given to these, those are important. I stopped counting and keeping track. I would have to say the year was 2012 when we dropped below 7%, 7.5% maybe. We've got to be below 5% by now. That's it. And they're bringing in the invasion. And of course, what happened to Israel is they took the best of the people out of the land. They left the really less talented people. They took all the craftsmen out, but they left the basic laborers, the people with diminished understanding. They left them to tend to the land. They considered them harmless. They would never rise up against them. And then they moved in other populations to make sure Israel would never rise again, that part of the world wouldn't give them any trouble. So it's a type of warfare. So that's what they're doing to America. And there's another type of warfare they're doing to us. And this one, since you might not like the Bible one, this one's a little bit more here and now. It's old warfare. You want to invade your neighbor's land. You send your young warriors class in there, unarmed. You dribble them in, unarmed. You might train them before you send them in there, but you make sure that they don't look like warriors. They don't look like men of fighting age. And if you're real smart, you send in wives and families with them, because they'll never start a fight. They won't start a ruckus. But right now, the average immigrant into the country is military age, male, no attachment to any female. So once they're in the country, that's when you pull the arms out, you arm them up, and you let them go. That's coming here, boys and girls. You need your militias. Form your militias. Get to know your neighbor. Get proficient. And find out who the leaders are. Find out who should have rank. Find out who's got your best interests at heart. You don't want a leader that's not looking out for your welfare. Remember that colonel at the first battle in Vietnam? Moore was his name, I think. He went in there, and his philosophy was, he's the first one on the ground of his troops. He's leading his men. And he's the last one leaving the battlefield. And that's exactly what he did. And he fought, and he beat against tremendous odds. And the Vietnamese general who he fought against, later the two were united. They had tremendous respect for each other. Tremendous respect. There's a great movie on that. Look, folks, I'm getting close to an hour. I don't want to go over an hour. This takes the place of my AM radio show. For years, I was on the radio over the years. And I was giving psychology away. And my blog is still up. There's some free resources there for you. I do have a PayPal down below, and I hate even mentioning it, but I need some support. I got Bibles to sell. I'd rather sell the Bibles, but I get more money given to me than I make off the Bibles. I'm not doing too good in that. Help me sell the Bibles. That would be greatly appreciated. Don't share this widely with just anybody. Only give it to believers. These are advanced Bible things that I'm giving you. This is not for lightweights. This is not for newbies. This blows them out of the water. They won't get it. And a lot of you people have been reading the Bible for a while, like me, over 15 years. I barely get some of this stuff I'm onto right now. Do hit a thumbs up on this thing. I would love that. I lost 2 channels, and I had 300 subscribers between those. It took me a year to get those. I wish I had started a year earlier. Coach Greg Adams warned us, if you're going to do it now. I wish I had followed his advice and just got on there and made my mistakes and cut my teeth then. He was right. He's got good insight. He's a great coach. He's a funny man, too. I love listening to him, but sometimes he gets a little out there for me. Folks, I want you to realize that things are going to get worse. They're going to put the screws harder to us. The earth is also going to be going through its changes here. It's the end of the earth age and the beginning of a new one. So the earth is going to be going through birth pangs. It's not going to be easy for us. There will also be a purification period, in case you're wondering. That's called an ice age. And it doesn't last that long. About 9 months. Interesting, isn't that? 9 months. And it starts with a bang, and it ends with a solar flare. The earth is designed to recycle itself. You should think of it as alive and a living organism. There's a tremendous amount going on to this that I just have vague hints at. And some of my thinking is out there and a little obscure, and I don't like sharing it because you aren't ready for it. I mean, there's some incredible messages in the Bible. I got some buddies, some past pastors who told me things which I'd like to share with you so that you would understand there are other perspectives, other ways to read that book. Actually, several levels. I want you to read it. I want you to read it for its history. Learn the names of the characters. Study the plot. And if you really want to get into it, study character development. Because when you study character development, that's going to improve your own character. Right there. You observing the mistakes they made in the Bible means you don't have to make the same mistakes. You don't just borrow from the Bible, folks. Just steal from it. You take those ideas and run with it. When you find a model of excellence, or when you read an autobiography of a great man, they wrote those there so you could have that. So you don't just borrow it, you take it. You steal it, you make it yours. I know that sounds horrible, right? Thou shalt not steal, but okay. It's a figure of speech. It's for emphasis, okay? I'm trying to get the point across. By the way, one of the things you do is you learn the rules of language like you learn the rules of music. And when you understand those rules, then you break those rules to make even greater points, to make better music. And so you really do have to know what you're doing in language to do that, and you have to know what you're doing in music to do that. I know a little bit in each one. May you be given the peace today and the tranquility to enjoy your food and your drink. May you be grateful for what you have today and count every little blessing. Dwell on every little blessing, every tiny thing that you have going for you today. Cultivate that attitude of gratitude. It'll do you a lot of good. And start talking to other people a little bit more. You got to figure out who your friends are, who your real family is. Because these days, family is not family. I found that out. My brother turned his back in a way to let me know he was never there for me. He used to have a sign on his door when we were younger. I think it was from a movie or a book or something saying, "My brother, my enemy." I now take him at his word. I understand he's disliked me. He's kicked me every chance he's had. Well, fine. Doesn't want to talk to me? He can have that. I hope he takes good care of himself because I'm not going to be around to help. I mean, when he gets into physical health problems, yeah, I could send him several different ways and places to contradict and cure what ails him. That's for sure. But people are stuck. They're brainwashed. They're dumbasses. And that's all there is to it. Yeah, brother, that's what you are. You don't know me. You have no idea who I am. You have no idea how I have looked out for you as your big brother. Yeah, I have. I've acted in your best interest. And look at what I get from you. Yes, the parents empowered you because the philosophy of the family was more communist than it was capitalist, more communist than it was free enterprise. Yeah, I know. I know how you feel towards me, finally. I understand that. And you think you want to go after me? There's a problem with that, my brother. There's such a thing as poetic justice. Get yourself ready for it. Yahweh takes care of me. I can't say the same for you. You were invited. You chose wrong. You chose poorly. You chose the evil. You chose the bad over the good. I'm sorry for you for that, but I can't protect you anymore. Yahweh bless.